Welcome, welcome. You are watching the Brand Marks the Spot show, and I am your brand buddy, Patrick Sesko, and welcome to episode 15 of the Brand Marks the Spot show, a show where we talk about all things branding and design to leverage those things to help you grow your business. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how crowdsourcing your brand design can destroy your business. And we'll get into the details of that, of course. But first, this episode is brought to you by my Nail Your Brand Colors and Fonts workshop. And this is basically a workshop that's going to help you create your brand starter kit. It's going to be able to nail your brand colors and your fonts, which are two of the most complaints that I hear from my audience about they get stuck on when they're building their visual brand for their business. And this will walk you through all of that and how your brand personality can influence your colors and your fonts. And by creating your brand colors and fonts, you're going to create a consistent visual base that you'll be able to use. That's going to ultimately, over time, build trust and credibility with your audience. So if you want to get on the wait list for that, go to patricksesko.com/waitlist. And if you do get on that wait list, you will get a discount code that goes along with that. So without further ado, let me come back on here. Let me make sure, since I've been having so many technical difficulties, that you can hear me. Yes, you can hear me, and that makes me very excited. So let me go ahead and turn this down. Awesome. Okay, once again, welcome to the show. I'm very excited to be here. It's been kind of a crazy week with everything that's going on, and it seems like everything is starting to settle down a little bit, so that's good. So in today's episode, we're talking about how crowdsourcing your brand design can destroy your business. Now, that sounds a little dramatic, right? And this is not always going to be the case. But before we even get into that, you might be asking, what is crowdsourcing? So let me clear that up before we move forward. So crowdsourcing is basically when you're going to have these websites that you submit a very basic request for a job, a logo, a brand, or whatever that is, and you submit it, and then you're going to get tens, hundreds, however many designs back from multiple different designers from around the world. And then you get to choose which one you want to use, and then you only pay for the one design that was chosen. And that's what crowdsourcing is. So it's basically getting input from, or getting designs from, a multitude of people based on some very basic criteria that you provide them through said site. Then, like I say, you get to choose the design that you like, and you move forward with that one design. That person gets paid, when the rest of them do not. So that's what crowdsourcing is in a nutshell. And there are multiple sites. Some of them are like 99 Designs, and other similar things like that, right? So what is crowdsourcing good for? In my opinion, and this may sound self-serving, but because I am a graphic designer, sites like this have tended to sort of devalue the value of design and what it can do for your business. And but it's good for things like, if you already have your brand identity sort of established and you need somebody to create some social media graphics for you, you send out your request, you give them your brand guidelines if you have one, and then they'll create something based on that. So you already have a direction that they'll do to give you those designs for. And I think that's what it's good for business. Other things it's good for, your kid's soccer team. You need a flyer for an event you're doing with some friends or something like that. But when it comes to creating your brand, this is when I feel like it can be actually damaging to your business. And there are a couple of reasons why. So things that it's not good for is for designing your brand identity and just your visual brand. And the reason being is because most of the times, and I'm not going to say that it's never happened where somebody has gotten a good brand where there's been a little bit more detail provided, and you tend to work with one designer if you go that route. But when you just trying to get your brand done for $100 or $200 and expect to have this super strategic and fleshed out design that's going to match your values, it's going to they're going to understand who your audience is, they're going to understand your business, the space that you work in, you're going to understand the type of value you bring to your audience. I don't think it's good for that, because they're not going to know that in a 3 to 5 questionnaire that you supply them, because there's no research involved, there's no strategy involved, or very little, if any. So also in a lot of these, and this is sort of a little bit of a soapbox moment, a lot of these sites are rampant with theft. And when I say theft, I mean that, so here's how it works. You submit a request for a design. Say, I want a logo for my business. This is what I want the logo to say. These are the colors I like, and I want a picture of a panda with it, right? So you do that. I'm sorry, just getting a call. So that you send them that info, and then you'll get 100 different logo designs from multiple sources, right, across the world, oftentimes overseas in the Philippines, but also you'll get some US based submissions as well. And what happens is there's no incentive for the designer to spend a lot of time and research and effort into providing you these designs, because the only person who gets paid is the person whose design gets chosen. So if you get 100 submissions and you only choose one, you have, let's just say you get 100 submissions and everybody spends an hour on submitting some designs. You only choose one, you pay $100 or $200, so that one person gets paid, but you're getting 100 hours worth of work for only $200. That's $2 an hour, basically, that you're paying for the labor, if you will, the labor. And so depending on where your values are in terms of that, say I wouldn't expect to do free work for somebody who says, hey, I want you to design my brand identity, but I've got 3 other designers that I'm doing work that are doing the work for me, and I'm only going to work with the one that I like. So, all of the risk is on the person doing the work. And, I get it. It's very attractive to say, well, I'm going to get this done for very cheaply. But, from a value perspective, it's not the same. It's from a value perspective, you're only paying $2 an hour, if you will. And so that's why I don't really agree with those types of sites, because not only has it kind of devalued my industry, graphic design and branding, but it's also you're asking for people to do work for you, and you're asking for it to be good, but you're only willing to pay one person to do the work. So again, if somebody chooses to be on that site and somebody chooses to submit the work, that's on them. I get it. But at the same time, there's no incentive for them to spend a lot of time, because the more submissions they have, the higher percentage of chances their designs will get chosen. And that's where the theft comes in. And when I say theft, I mean like copyright infringement. So, and this has been proven. I have colleagues who are well-known in the industry, who are well-known logo designers. They're constantly battling with some of these sites to have their work taken down through legal notices, because somebody had basically lifted something out of their portfolio, took the logo icon that they designed, changed the name of the company, and then submitted that through one of the contests as their own work. And it's very difficult to track, and it becomes costly for the person who is whose work is being stolen to hire lawyers and have DMC notices taken, written up and sent. So it's a losing battle. And so that's why I don't agree with those sites, especially when it comes to branding your business. So The title of this show is, how crowdsourcing your brand design can destroy your business. And the case in point is, let's say I'm a business and I hire, I go through one of these crowdsourcing sites, I get my logo done, and I create, I spent thousands of dollars to get my website up using this branding, and I have some literature printed up and hats and apparel or whatever, anything that you create for your business. And then it comes to find out that that logo was a copyright infringement. So now you're required to shut it down as a business, and you could potentially be on the hook for thousands of dollars for copyright infringement, because the way that the sites work, they're not liable for that. So all the risk is on you as the business owner and the people who are submitting these designs, because the chances are very slim that their designs will not get, or that their designs will get chosen. So not only are many people working for free, and then you run the risk of putting your business at a liability because of that. So some people say, oh, that's dramatic, that probably rarely happens. But I mean, would you really want to take the chance to do that for your business, right? So and an alternative way to look at that, so depending on what you do in your business, like I wouldn't hire 3 plumbers to come and work on an issue or work on my kitchen remodel and then only pay the one that I think did the best work. That's not how it works, right? So that's why I think it's important to have free content, free trainings, and doing shows like this to show your value and your knowledge and your expertise, because people need to know whether or not you're going to be a credible source and whether or not you're going to be somebody who has the values to do work that lines up with integrity, right? So I think that's very important, right? So even though I said that some of the things like having a flyer done for your party or an invitation done for your kid's party or something like that through that is more acceptable in my mind, there's still that concept of people working for nothing to get the chance of being chosen. So only one person will get chosen, right? So, and only one person gets paid. So you as the client only pays one person, usually at a very low rate. So that attracts that attracts the idea of, oh, the more submissions I put in, the more chances of my designs getting chosen. So it's not about the quality of work, it's about the quantity of work. So I believe that that can be very detrimental to your business. It's kind of like, swiping a photo off of a Google search and putting it on your website, coming to find out that you can't use those images because you haven't paid for the legal rights to use that image in your website, for instance. And there have been cases of big photo stock agencies like Getty and Corbis and whatnot going after the little guy who have grabbed these image, in their defense, they didn't know, but still grabbing these images, using them on our website, and then these stock agencies coming back to them and saying, hey, you're using this without licensing, so that's an infringement. You're getting fined basically for this. And a lot of times it'll go to court, and a lot of times it will end up being thousands of dollars. There's documented cases of that happening quite often. And my friend who's in the industry, logo designer, who's pretty well known, he's just constantly battling people ripping off his logos, right? It's one thing to be influenced and to do some research and to get some ideas from other people's work. That's completely normal. But to just take it as it is, take the logo, change the name of the company, and submit it as their own work, as somebody else's own work, that's, from an integrity standpoint, that's not good. And again, it can put your business at risk. So that is how crowdsourcing your brand design can potentially destroy your business, especially, a lot of my audience, you guys are starting out. So why would you, and I understand the lure of paying a low fee to get something like that, but just, think about, your brand has value, right? Long after you pay for it. So think about that. Like, what would you want to risk your business? Would you want to risk your money? Would you want to risk your credibility for that, right? So you don't want to be involved in that. And some would say, oh, well, that's self-serving, Patrick, because, you're a designer and you're just mad because, part of your industry is being commoditized. And that's a valid argument. And I would probably say I certainly thought that at one point, but now I don't believe that sort of that cross section of people are not my audience, obviously, because my one-on-one clients typically pay a premium to work with me. And, just consider yourself. So if you're a coach or a consultant or whatever it is that you are, whatever it is that your business is, would you submit your work to somebody for free in the hopes that your stuff might get chosen? Again, so consider your values, consider the integrity side of it, and, no judgment. You do you, I do me. And, just remember, your brand has the long-term value, and oftentimes you get what you pay for. So please consider that when you start thinking about crowdsourcing your design for your brand. And my suggestion would be to connect with people who are in your industry or who are some of your peers that you might be connecting with either online or in real life. Get some recommendations from them or some referrals. You have your other sites like Fiverr, which those are not crowdsourced, but those are basically, hey, you can get this stuff done for really cheap. And again, I don't suggest you do high value things like your brand identity and your branding through a Fiverr. Again, I think Fiverr is great for certain things like, hey, I need this video cut down to a 30-second clip, or I need a little animation of my logo for the intro, or something quick and easy, something that you can pay, $5 to $50 for or whatever, right? So I think that is a good way to use a Fiverr, for instance, or other similar like an Upwork or things like that. But just remember that there's people on the other side, the workers, who are getting paid peanuts. So, and I understand the lore again of, wanting to bootstrap and pay as little as possible, but just remember what you put out comes back to you. So if you have the integrity of that, I believe it comes back to you, and you're doing good for whatever industry you're in or whatever industry you're supporting. So if you're hiring designers, find a designer that can work within a budget that you have, which is important to have a budget. And if it's something that you don't have a big budget for, then that's where a template could come in, to where you won't have a custom brand, but it'll be something to start off of, right? So again, think about that. That's what I got for you today. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Just remember, just do your best and just think about how you are conducting yourself in your business, and others will see that as well, and you will attract the same type of people who have the same type of values and integrity that you do. So that's what I got for you today. You guys have an awesome Tuesday, and I'll see you next week. See you later.